Go blue, everybody. Sharon Moore hits a home run and steals one of Ohio State's top coaches and top recruiters. It's all coming up next on an emergency episode of Michigan Wolverines Live. And welcome back to another episode of Michigan Wolverines Live. And yes, it is a Wednesday, March 13th, 2024. We normally don't go live on Wednesdays, but guess what? Special times call for special measures, and this is definitely one of those times. The only news we're talking about today, although if you want to call in and talk about other stuff, that's cool. But on our special edition, the only thing we're really going to be talking about is Michigan hiring or stealing Ohio State's running backs coach, Tony Alford. Folks, oh yeah, by the way, I should probably do this stuff too. Follow me on Twix, John Diadamo. Hit the like button as you come in. Please do that. Hit that like button, subscribe, and of course, as always, share with a friend. So there are a lot of things, and we could tackle this in a lot of different ways, but we want to start by going through Tony Alford's background and why this is a big deal. So the first thing I want to point out is Sharon Moore's official statement on the matter. So Sharon Moore has said that Tony is an elite running backs coach who is an outstanding mentor, an example for young men in all aspects of football and life. I know that he will have a profound impact on our running back room and football program. Emphasis there. And football program. We're excited to have Tony and his wife Trina and their boys join the Michigan football family. Okay. So that was the official statement from Sharon Moore announcing the hire. Tony Alford, of course, also decided to make a statement, and I'm not going to put it up because it's very long. But he essentially said, over the last 9 years, he thanked a lot of people. He talked about high school. He talked about thanking Urban Meyer and Gene Smith and Ryan Day. And there was some heat that he made that announcement. I think it was a very classy thing to do, but not everybody agrees with that. So a little bit about Tony. He played at a school called Colorado State as a running back, and he actually had 1,035 yards in 1989 as a junior under Earl Bruce. You may remember Earl Bruce from if you followed Ohio State at all as a Ohio State coach. He did meet somebody named Urban Meyer in 1990, as Urban Meyer was an assistant at Colorado State. Then he goes and he coaches as an assistant. He has stints at Mount Union, Kent State, Iowa State, Washington, Iowa State again, Louisville, 5 years at Notre Dame as a running backs coach and even a wide receivers coach for a few years. Then when they decided to make some shifts, he went back to running backs. He's been at Ohio State for the last 8 years as associate head coach and running backs coach. And the last 2 of them, he's been running backs coordinator. Now, before we get to the 5 reasons why this hire is massive, I want to start by debunking something. I want to start by debunking this notion that we have from a member, I believe this is an Ohio State fan who commented this. You realize Ohio State fans are glad that he's gone. He's a mediocre recruiter and was never able to figure out a running back rotation. I am going to demonstrate how wrong this take is right now. Watch me. You ready? I hope Greg's watching. I'm going to demonstrate with facts just how wrong this take actually is. So this is 247, and you're actually able to pull a list of all-time recruits from if somebody was a primary or a secondary recruiter of a particular player. So I'm going to show you now just the impact that Alford had on recruiting. We start with, of course, a guy named Travion Henderson, a pretty good player, if I do say so myself. Had some pretty amazing seasons in 2021 and 2023. He was injured in 2022, as we know. Jalen Gill, primary recruiter. Tyreek Smith, primary recruiter. J.K. Dobbins, oh, remember him? He was pretty good. Primary recruiter, 4-star, 0.97. Greg Bryant, primary recruiter. Demario McCall, primary recruiter. Elise Mack, secondary recruiter. Tight end, not even a running back. Lewis Nix, defensive tackle, not a running back. Primary recruiter. Evan Pryor, primary recruiter. Brian Sneed, TJ Jones, Dexter Williams, Folston, James Peoples, Ben Chrisman, Jacob Colwyn. A lot of these aren't even running backs. Lathan Ransom, a safety, secondary recruiter. Folks, the list continues. Okay? This is Master Teague. Remember him? Got Master Teague on here. We've got tight ends. Dallin Hayden, running back. Ryan Jacoby, offensive tackle. Malik Burrow. Oh, by the way, he was secondary recruiter for Tommy Two Thumbs Eichenberg. And it just continues from there. I could go on and on and on and on and on to demonstrate that that statement is wrong, demonstrably and clearly wrong. He is an incredible recruiter. And I have said many times, I don't really fault. I actually believe that that Hartline does a tremendous job as wide receivers coach and a tremendous job recruiting. I've said that the position coaches have done a great job with recruiting and a great job coaching. My issue is with the management of the program from Ryan Day himself. The scheme that he's put in the Big Ten, which is a physical conference, but a finesse method. And yet, he's still, in the Big Ten, only lost 3 games. If you want to count Oregon 2021, now that they're in the Big Ten, I guess you can, but 3 games. So imagine if he was in the Big 12. Probably would have won them all, right? So the finesse doesn't necessarily work against the very best of the Big Ten. In this case, Michigan. It did work against almost everybody else, to be fair. However, I hope I've demonstrated that that take is completely false, at least from the recruiting perspective. So what I'm going to go over is, this one here. So it doesn't make sense, the contract Ohio offered him. So Ohio State apparently offered him 1 year. Michigan has offered him 3 years, reportedly $2.5 million deal. So that's pretty solid. I think that the issue was that instead of a 1-year deal, he wanted that respect of a 3-year deal, given what he contributes, not just to the running back room, but clearly, as Sharon Moore alluded to in his statement, the entire football program. Go back to Sharon Moore's statement and tell me that that statement about the football program doesn't do a lot of lifting, because it does. So I'm going to go through the 5 reasons why this is a really great move, and then I'm going to bring on Keith and any other callers that want to call in. Here's the link where I'm going to take calls one at a time today. No panels or anything like that. Take them one at a time. Everybody can give their thoughts. And by the way, if you're not a Michigan fan, you're also welcome to call in. Okay? You're also welcome to call in. We take everybody here. We're not afraid to have a debate with a Buckeye. Okay. Reasons why this is a massive, massive hire for Michigan. Let's begin with this. I just showed you the 247 list that kept going and going and going with the players that he's recruited. How about the fact that he's recruited 9 top 200 running backs to Mike Hart's 1? Now, granted, I am not saying Mike Hart's a bad coach. Mike Hart is a fantastic running backs coach. As a recruiter, he left something to be desired at times. Okay? We said with TJ that he was a fantastic coach, and I'm not going to walk that back. But the numbers don't lie. Reason number 2 is that Alford has the goods. He knows Ohio State's recruiting. You saw the recruiting that he does. He knows what they do for NIL. He knows their schemes. He knows inside information, maybe even related to how this whole Michigan signal thing came about. I'm not going to go there, but you can see it on Twitter. A lot of people are, in the Michigan circles talking about that he may know some things about how they got their hands on some of this information, in nefarious, potentially ways, allegedly. But the point is, I think this is pretty devastating when it comes to knowing what Ryan Day does. And so it's similar to Madison. I thought Madison, when he left Michigan for Ohio State, I thought that was pretty devastating because he knows all of Don Brown's signals, and Don Brown was too stubborn to change anything. So that's why Ohio State completely crushed Michigan in 2019. I believe that this move, Sherrone Moore is saying, I'm here to win. I'm here to win another title. I'm here to get to another playoff. It's a Mission Impossible move. Okay, it is. Number 3, it's legal. Yes, folks. No concern about NCAA sanctions with this one. Ohio State took Madison from Michigan, and Nick Saban just did it with one of our coaches, George Hilo, literally for one game to understand why Michigan is the way that they are. He hires George Hilo as an assistant. So it's legal. Reason number 4, it adds more to the Texas and Florida pipeline. Again, if you look at the 247 all-time recruits, you're going to notice a pattern. Yes, there are Ohio people, but you'll see quite a few from Fort Lauderdale, Florida. Different cities in Florida. LaGrange, Texas, J.K. Dobbins. Again, J.K. Dobbins did a thing or two. And by the way, he's still in the NFL. And we, of course, have our resident as the great Devin Gardner called him, Stephen Cherry Blossom. J.K. Dobbins. I think he's doing a few things. I don't know. Anyone? Oh, by the way, Ezekiel Elliott. Did he do some things? You think Travion Henderson won't do some things when he goes to the NFL? So the great Devin Gardner has already addressed this and these things enough, so I'm not going to continue there. But you can check out that show that just happened, and it was quite interesting. Okay. Again, Texas and Florida pipeline. This is huge. This is where a lot of the talent is, right? And so when you look at, again, the J.K. Dobbins of the world, and some of these Florida recruits, this really expands more into the South, and we have already been doing that to an extent. But this is going to continue to improve recruiting in those areas, which I think is absolutely huge for the program. And finally, this move shows how far the Michigan program has come and what Sherrone Moore is prepared to do to win. By hiring a coach, a key coach, away from Ohio State, the associate head coach, the running game coordinator, and the running backs coach, all three, just saying. Sherrone Moore has said, we're not just going to be satisfied with winning the title and then going back to 8-4 or 9-3. No. We're going to do whatever it takes to continue winning. So what that means is continue the Michigan DNA, physicality, continue the Michigan DNA of, mostly paying recruits after they've done things on the field. But now you're starting to see the openness to an expanded look at NIL, right? An expanded look at NIL. Because Tony Alford, I can almost guarantee you, was, part of the discussions of how much money am I getting? What kind of car am I getting? And he knows how to navigate those conversations in ways that some of our coaches don't yet. So this is huge. Nick Saban talked about it. These are the conversations happening now in living rooms. How much am I making? And what is in it for me? As long as we keep the main identity of the program, the team, now you have a coach that knows how to navigate those conversations. And I think that that is absolutely huge. Sherrone Moore made he hit a home run with this hire. We thought yesterday they might hire the Notre Dame running backs coach. They might hire the Marshall coach. No. The Ohio State University associate head coach and running backs coach is now officially at the University of Michigan. For those of you just joining us, we are all about Tony Alford and Michigan stealing Tony Alford from Ohio State today with a 3-year deal, approximately $2.5 million. That's what we're talking about today. We have our first caller on the line. We've got Keith joining us. Keith, thanks for stopping by again here.
All right, John. Great to talk to you. You know what's funny about this is I was on the way back from a meeting today, and I was in my car, and I got a notification from Ohio State feed, and I was listening to it live as they were saying. First, it was reported that Alford was going, and they came to the very quick conclusion he's done at Ohio State. He's done. You can't even get your name mentioned with Michigan and stay at Ohio State. And later in the feed, about 20 minutes later, they came up with Pete Thamela's reporting Alford signed with Michigan. Do you know what's also peculiar about his contract?
What's that?
It's Mike Hart's. That's just about what Mike Hart was making. I think Mike Hart was making 770 something thousand. You multiply that by 3, 2.5.
Yeah.
So Tony Alford saw what he was making and saw what Hart was making. Says, I like his job better. Yeah. Okay. This might build on one of your 5 reasons, and maybe it's number 6. But remember when Sherman Moore came in and he said, I am going to total restructure and overhaul the recruiting process. And I bet you he said to everybody in the program, I want to be able to recruit like Ohio State. Right?
How about, I think that was definitely in there with the discussions about navigating the NIL conversations with recruits. He knows how to do that. He's been doing it for years at Ohio State and having to battle against Miami, against Alabama, against the SEC schools that are throwing money at players. He knows how to navigate those conversations. And I hate to tell you, Michigan is going to have to navigate those conversations. The days of that not happening are over. With the recent ruling against the NCAA in Tennessee, those days are over, and you have to navigate those conversations. So I think that's absolutely, you're spot on, Keith. That was for sure part of it. He knows how to do that, and he's done it at Ohio State.
Great strategic mind, yes. And in order to support that model that you're talking about, they hired the new general manager
Mm-hmm.
And one problem Michigan has always had is the administration didn't want the athletic department talking to their donors and taking money from the art school and the med school and the psychology school to fund the football program. And I think Sharon Moore has got the administration convinced we need to do our own independent thing. We'll look for new people and try not to hurt you too bad, but we've got to do this to stay competitive.
So there is definitely an undercurrent from what I've been hearing and listening about, not really feeling respected. And I'm wondering if bringing in Chip Kelly instead of maybe considering uh, Coach Alford as offensive coordinator, if that maybe played into the decision to leave, if there were maybe some clashes, because when a new leader takes over, a lot of times the people under him get pushed out for his people, as we know happens in corporate life, and it happens in football too. So over time, Chip Kelly's people, you're probably going to start to see take over offensive positions if he's going to be OC for a long time. Do you think that might have played a role? Maybe there were some disagreements there.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I want to tell you a little secret just between us boys.
Mm,
Brian Hartline.
yeah,
He was talked about being promoted to the offensive coordinator.
right.
He actually was for a little while in acting, but and what was his role last year? Did they ever make him the offensive coordinator last year?
Yes, his
Yeah,
title was offensive coordinator, but he did not call the plays.
but he did not call the plays. So what do? They hire Bill O'Brien, who says, "Screw you." I was just
Yep.
kidding. And then they hire Chip Kelly. So I think there's somebody else who might be very low, feel very disrespected.
Yeah, I mean, and look, to be completely fair, that may have played a role in the Mike Hart departure too. That Sharon Moore selected Kirk Campbell to be the offensive coordinator. I mean, these are the things that just happen when you get passed over for a role. You're going to look elsewhere to see, test the market and see what's out there. And so, yeah, I think that's definitely part of it. If he felt, but what's really notable is this rarely happens. It did happen in the other direction with Greg Madison a few years ago, but it doesn't normally happen where a school with this intense of a rivalry goes to the rival. So I think it's notable that there were enough problems in his compensation, in his role, feeling disrespect. There had to be things, or he wouldn't have made this move.
Didn't Mike Hart take the leave of absence the day after the win?
It was, if not the day after, it was really soon after. Yeah.
So that was even before the Campbell decision. I think Mike Hart might have been uh, perturbed and disrespected by Sharon Moore getting the head coaching job and not him, because he left very quickly.
Yep. Yeah, and he was in the mix even back. Last time there was speculation about Harbaugh maybe departing, and he thought he had things wrapped up with the Vikings, I believe it was, and Mike Hart was in the mix for head coach, and so it just kind of seemed like over the last 3 years, the winds kind of changed, and Sharon Moore started emerging as the head coach in waiting. So I think that might have, again, these things just happen. They happen in business, they happen in football, they happen across the board.
Yes, like I said the other night, I think that was a big loss for us. But boy, Sharon Moore really covered it. Remember, Sharon Moore told us he's got somebody in mind and wait. You'll be shocked, but he's got somebody in line, and he kept that secret really well.
Oh, he did. And Keith, last thing, and then I'm going to let you go because we have another caller. But do you think that this was really Sharon Moore saying, Like, I'm not just here to slide back to 8-4 and 9-3. I'm here to contend for titles year after year now. Like, that one title that we got, yeah, we're celebrating it. We're happy. We got a national championship, but Michigan's not satisfied.
Yep, and I would say that plan to compete for more titles starts this year. I believe we have a fighting chance to have close to a good a year, if not as good as a year as we did last year. Oh, I want to leave with this question.
Okay.
Does Ohio State was bragging about how they won the offseason.
Yeah. Yeah.
Does this equal it? Does this just give us a
Ooh,
little talking point, or does this swing it in our favor? I'll
I
hang
gotta.
up and let you decide.
I appreciate that, man. Keith, go blue, and thanks for being on.
All right, bye.
Just a reminder to everybody here that we do have the phones open, and we're going to take the next call in a second here. But please, if you would like to call in, you don't have to put your camera on. You can just do audio. But we would love to hear your take on the home run hire of Tony Alford, hiring away from Ohio State, Sharon Moore staking his claim. Next up, we have Moose joining us. Moose in the house. Go blue, Moose.
It's great to be a Michigan Wolverine, ain't it, John?
It is great to be a Michigan Wolverine today. Oh man, what a hire!
I gotta tell you though, since October we've been hearing from Ohio State fans is how the hammer's going to come down. Well, the hammer did come down, but it wasn't the hammer that they were expecting, was it?
The hammer came down all right, and I think it's comical when I highlighted one comment on screen where one of the Ohio State people had said, he wasn't a good recruiter. And then, then you saw the bazillions of recruits that Alford either was the primary recruiter for or the secondary recruiter. And you saw names like, I don't know, J.K. Dobbins and Travion Henderson.
Yeah.
They might have. Oh, and then Eichenberg as a secondary recruiter. Yeah, he didn't recruit at all. Like, that's it boggles my mind when people say that.
Well, John, that's their way of coping. Oh, he was mid when they lose somebody that good. My thing is, if you've been coaching at Ohio State for 9 years, you're not mid. You're doing something right. That's all I'm saying. And you just showed that list. This is, in my opinion, this is a great hire for Michigan. This guy can recruit with the best of them. I mean, you showed a list of everybody that he's recruited, all those big time names. I mean,
yeah, we'll pull it up again because we've like doubled our viewership the last couple minutes. So we're gonna look at the list again for a second here. Okay, yeah. He hasn't recruited anybody. How about Travion Henderson? He's pretty good.
Yeah,
and
just a little bit.
You got a guy named J.K. Dobbins. He was all right. He did a couple things, and I don't know, helped in the playoffs and helped obviously now in the NFL, doing tremendous things, in the NFL.
And as you're scrolling down, John, what I like about this is, do you see all running backs on this list?
No, you don't.
He's got linebackers in there. He's got defensive tackles. He's got safeties. That tells you this guy can recruit. He definitely can recruit. So I'm excited. I'm excited he's in Ann Arbor.
Yeah. How about an interior offensive lineman? How about a D tackle? How about Lathan Ransom? He was pretty good. Safety.
Right.
Yeah. So you saw Sharon Moore's statement, I think, when he made a statement that I think was very telling, because he said, I know that Tony will have a profound impact on our running back room and football program. football program, because he's not just coming to recruit running backs. He is coming to coach the running backs room, but he's coming to help recruit everybody.
And I'm thinking,
Linebackers,
John,
safeties.
and I'm thinking, John, if Alford left Ohio State to join Michigan, you think something's going on over there? There's got to be something going on over there. Why would he do that?
It's tough to speculate, but you think that bringing in first Bill, as Keith, our last caller, just mentioned. Oh, here's Tommy Two Thumbs Eichenberg. Secondary recruiter for him. He did a couple things, if I recall correctly. I mean, think about it. If you've been in a role for 7-8 years, and they hire someone over you, aka, well, technically Hartline last year, even though he didn't call plays, he was OC. And then this year, Bill O'Brien. And then Bill O'Brien went off. And then Chip Kelly comes in. I wonder if there was a little bit of resentment because of that. I wonder if, maybe 3-year deal, $2.5 million, there was a little more respect there given by Sharon Moore at Michigan.
Yeah, I'm thinking maybe Chip has something to do with it. Maybe he got more money than maybe he should have, and maybe that pissed Alford off. I don't know. He's like, well, maybe I'll just go somewhere where they appreciate me and make more money. It could, I don't know, it could be anything. I don't know.
Mayan Williams. Yeah, he did a couple things. Yeah. And he's a 3-star. We know 3-stars sometimes are diamonds in the rough. So now he's demonstrated he can find diamonds in the rough too. Because Mayan Williams was a 3-star, and he did some things, obviously, at Ohio State and put up some yardage, especially when Travion Henderson was injured.
There's no doubt he's got a good eye for recruiting, just from all the people that you showed on the list.
Yeah. I think it's huge. I think it's huge for a lot of reasons. I don't know if you saw the 5 reasons why I think this isn't a monumental hire, but it really does, since we did just double our viewership, and thank you, and please hit the like button. I'm going to go through them again here for everybody just joining us. Number 1, huge upgrade as a recruiter. Great respect for Mike Hart as a coach, but as a recruiter, Alford had 9 top 200 running backs to Mike Hart's 1. Alford knows Ohio State's recruiting. He knows what they do for NIL. He knows how to navigate the conversations with recruits in today's college football landscape, because he had to face Miami firing the money cannons. He's had to face Texas A&M firing the money cannons. He's had to face Alabama and Georgia firing the money cannons. So he knows how to navigate those conversations and keep players at Ohio State. And now he's going to lend those talents to Michigan, right?
And John, all we heard from Ohio State when Jim Harbaugh left and took all his staff with him was how we were going to be cooked. But look at Sharon Moore's list of all the coaches he just hired. It's incredible, man. If you would have told me that we have Alford, Scrubs, John May, all those guys on our list, I wouldn't have believed you. It's just been incredible what he's been able to accomplish.
Oh, he can't recruit Florida, huh? Okay, let's go back up the list again. Michael Deeb, Fort Lauderdale, Florida.
And John May has ties in Florida, so we're going to be fine.
Low Wood. You've got Justin Ferguson. You've got Marcus Crowley. You've got Stokes. You've got Florida. Ohio, Eichenberg, IMG Academy, huge academy in Florida. What's that again about not being able to recruit Florida? See, all you have to do is, if you do 5 seconds of research, you can find this list and look for yourself at what he was able to do in Florida and Texas. Right. And I think he's going to help us expand the Florida and Texas pipeline quite a bit.
He ain't playing, dude. Hey, Sharon Moore ain't playing around. I fully have 100% faith in this dude.
No, this was huge. And, it's, I believe, and I said this on some of the other podcasts in chat, but I believe that this is the perfect mix now. His coaching staff has the perfect mix of experience, younger coaches who can navigate kind of more the TikTok generation, can navigate NIL, experienced younger coaches, and now intel. He now has intel that he did not have before. And by the way, it's legal.
OG.
He has legally acquired intel from a coach that knows a lot of what Ohio State does schematically and with recruiting.
And you got Wink Martindale, the OG, the old guy of the bunch. And he's kind of veteran guy you need from these younger guys, so it mixes well with everybody else.
Yeah, Wink Martindale, and he even said today he was the OG of the defensive philosophy that Michigan runs, and he's right. He's the OG when it comes to being the teacher of Mike McDonald and the teacher of Jesse Minner, and now the guy who taught them. It's like we just got Mr. Miyagi. Okay, we had Daniel LaRusso. I know you like Karate Kid. We had Daniel LaRusso. We had who else? Julie Pierce. We had we had his like acolytes, and now we've got Mr. Miyagi himself, right?
The guy who taught McDonald and Mentor, man. I mean, you can't beat that. How can you top that?
Hummus, you are promoting him as a tool to subvert Ohio State through insider knowledge. Hummus, this is a legal way that Ohio State coaches from Michigan, like Greg Madison. Alabama did it with Nick Saban, with George Hilo, who he was the linebackers coach. So Saban did it for one game. So yeah, I think it's a great legal way to do that.
Think about that. He hired a former Michigan coach just for one game to get inside information on one game, and then they let him go.
It's crazy. Yeah, so we've got that. We've got the Texas and Florida pipeline, which we've talked about. And then bottom line, folks, this move shows how far the Michigan program has come and what Sharon Moore is prepared to do to win. A lot of people thought with Jim Harbaugh going that the program was going to take this significant decline. A lot of the media and people who weren't, following Michigan every day like we do, they thought, oh yeah, it's going to be 8-4, 7-5. They're going to take this huge dip. Well, clearly, with the moves that Sharon Moore is making, he's not planning on taking a dip anytime soon. He's planning to go to the playoff again.
Yeah, Michigan was going to fall off a cliff, John. That's what everyone was saying. After just winning a national championship, that was funny as hell.
Yeah, it's interesting. So yeah, I mean, it's a great coaching staff. It's again, like I said, experience mixed with newer coaches, mixed with intelligence, and now we're gonna get this take. Alford wasn't a great coach.
What? Come on, man.
He's a good coach. Very replaceable. Very replaceable.
Okay, if he wasn't a great coach, how do you end up staying at Ohio State for 9 years? Do they keep just mid coaches there? No, they don't.
Yeah, and 5 years at Notre Dame, and because that's nothing, right? Notre Dame.
Come on, Ohio State fans, you're better than that, man.
And by the way, he played at Colorado State as a running back, and in 1989 he was coached by a guy named Earl Bruce. So that that's Ringing any bells, Ohio State fans? Oh, and
Right.
also he met a guy named Urban Meyer his last year at Colorado State, and that's what
Not too
led to the
shabby.
connection of him coming to Ohio State.
Right. Hey, John, I wonder how David Greenshill is taking all this. I know our largest fan base is going to be upset about this. We don't want to upset everyone.
Well, David Greenshield and Ohio State fans are welcome to call the show if you have your take that you want to give us on what you think about this news. This isn't the invite isn't just for Michigan fans. If a Buckeye wants to call in and face the Lions Den or the Wolverines Den, you are welcome to call the show and give your reasoning why this isn't a slam dunk hire, and we're going to with facts explain why that's not the case. It just kills me.
Yeah, I would love an explanation on why this wasn't a good hire.
Apparently, he's not that great of a recruiter. What? Are you serious?
Even Mark said himself, this is good for Michigan in one of his posts on Twitter. So I mean, it's ridiculous.
Yeah, I was texting with Mark about this earlier, and Mark is an Ohio State fan, but he's also a journalist, he's a broadcaster, and he does see things with a somewhat rational look. And so yeah, like when you look at this this hire objectively, based on the experience of the man, it's a good hire. And look at who he's brought in. A guy named Travion Henderson, a guy named J.K. Dobbins. He also coached a guy named Ezekiel Elliott for a year, who I think was pretty successful in the NFL. I don't know, Moose. I think he did a couple things.
Yeah, I think he was pretty good at Dallas. I would say he had a pretty good career there.
And so yeah, anybody
he was getting over 1,000 yards a season at Dallas when he was at Dallas.
Yeah, let's also I want to address. This is hilarious. Because our buddy Stephen Cherry. I'm keeping receipts. Well, I took some receipts.
Stephen Cherry.
Do you remember a year called 2021 when Ohio State said, you guys have no shot. Like we're gonna put. I don't know. We're going to hang 100. You remember that? We're going to hang 100. Yeah. Ohio State's going to hang 100 over the course of 4 years. They're going to hang 100.
I remember.
By doing about 25-ish. And then, maybe in quarters, they're going to hang 100 over 4 years. But they said that in 2021. Then they said in 2022 that last year was just, it was snowy. It was cold. We had the flu. Et cetera, et cetera. You just kept hearing the excuses. And then Michigan goes to Columbus in 50-degree weather, no snow. I'm sure some people had the flu, but I guarantee you Michigan players had the flu in 2021. Didn't matter. Because it's freaking freezing there. You get the flu. I lived there for 4 years. You get the flu, okay? It happens. You got to stock up on your Dayquil and NyQuil. But guess what? Michigan pushed through. Ohio State didn't. 2022, we go to Columbus and we win by more. We win by more, Moose. Oh, and then they said, "Oh, it's not going to happen a third time. Oh, we're going to get you next year, the big house." And then what happens?
No way.
Rod Moore catches a ball, and Michigan wins 3 years in a row. I have receipts too, Stephen.
Well, John, Ohio State has an excuse for every loss. 2021, it was the snow was in C.J. Stroud's eyes. 2022, it was just bad play calling on our part when we won 40 when we smoked them 45-23. It was just bad play calling. And then in 2023, we cheated. And then 2024, now that we got Alford, it's going to be, oh, you stole our coach and our playbook. That's going to be their excuse for this year. So the excuses just keep on rolling for Ohio State fans.
Yep. And I love being called childish. I think that's great. And we're gonna keep those comments up, and we're gonna remember this in future episodes and everything else. We appreciate all Buckeyes that stop by. We love everybody who stops by, as long as you hit the like button, you don't attack people. I'm actually okay with being called childish. You could call that a personal attack. I don't give a crap. I really don't. We can keep it, because you know what, like, we've been discussing facts for the last 46 minutes on this show, because this is the voice of college football. So I've been putting up the recruiting list. I've been stating facts about what happened. If you want to call that childish, okay, that's your prerogative. But it is what it is.
I don't think you're acting childish, John. I think it's valid, considering all the stuff we've heard for the last few years.
Yeah. So we'll continue to keep the receipts, and we'll see. Look, I've said as well that I think Chip Kelly was a good hire for Ohio State. I think that Ryan Day needed to give up the play calling, because he was starting to play way more conservative. He was starting to get, it seemed like he had like residual worry from what happened previous years with injuries and with other things. And I believed he needed somebody like Chip Kelly to come in and take over the offense. And he might be the only guy that Ryan Day actually trusts to run that offense. However, with all that said, then this happens. So clearly, there's a little bit of discontentment internally, because you don't just leave a program that you've been at and you have ties going back to Earl Bruce if you're happy.
Yeah. All I know is I'm glad he's at Michigan and not at Ohio State. That's all I know. It's a good day to be Michigan Wolverine. I know that.
Absolutely. We don't even know y'all. Well, you are welcome every week. I do two shows. We've got Monday night at 8 p.m. Eastern. We do a show called Big Ten Live Ocho Edition. We bring on a media guest. On Monday night, we actually had Daniel House, who's the founder of Gophers Guru, and we talked Minnesota Golden Gophers football and Big Ten football, the whole show. And then Tuesday night at 8 p.m. Eastern, we have Michigan Wolverines live. And for many shows, we've had TJ Konarski, Ronin Sports Talk, stopping by. We also have had Isaiah Hole. You may know him. He's kind of out there, as a pretty big name. So yeah, I mean, if you want to get to know us, you're welcome to get to know us. We've got a Michigan channel. We've got an Ohio State channel. You are welcome to stop by any and all. The door is open. Come on by. All we ask is, if you don't mind hitting the like button, that would be great. Okay? Because maybe some of your Buckeye people will see the show if you hit the like button. And more Buckeyes can come in and tell me why I'm wrong. And that's great. So that would be awesome. We love that.
Oh, John, Dwayne Galloway, that prospect, I heard he's also trending back to Michigan now. He was trending to Purdue from what I heard, but I guess they've been talking to him, and Moore's trying to get him back. I guess he's doing a pretty good job of getting him back, so hopefully we can nab him.
That would be amazing. I mean, you're about as plugged in as it gets with recruiting out of all the people that I know. And you have, obviously you've had some dialogues with some of these players, and do you think that this hire of Tony Alford will help sway some of these players over to Michigan now? Is that kind of the idea?
Oh yeah, for sure. I think recruiting is definitely going to pick up with Alford coming over. I mean, just from what you showed, just from all the players you showed me on that list. I mean, like I was saying, not all of them are running backs. So that means he's talented. He just doesn't recruit running backs. He recruits all kinds of different positions. So That's huge for us, in my opinion.
I agree completely. You know, it's interesting. It's interesting. Oh, we're manipulating data. Okay, demonstrate where we manipulated data. Okay, that is a claim. In order to back up the claim, you need to give evidence. Give me concrete evidence of where we manipulated data right now, or I'm going to
He got
call
it off of
bullshit on all of it.
247. He got it off of 247. How is that manipulating it? I don't understand.
I showed the
Those are
entire
that's
list
fact.
from 5-star to
fact.
3-star.
That's a legit list.
People making a point.
People
making a point that he's not a good recruiter. I showed evidence to the contrary. If you want evidence that he's a good coach, well, just look. I even said there was a show that I did with Buckeye Mike. You can go back. It was called 30-Minute War. And I had to admit, because we had a full episode of 30-Minute War about who's better, Blake Corum, Travion Henderson. I had to admit that at times, Travion Henderson was better. I had to admit that he had his freshman year an incredible season, and over his career, he's had 2,745 career rushing yards, 32 rushing touchdowns, and 37 touchdowns overall. And you can't tell me that that wasn't at least somewhat a result of coaching, because we've seen incredible talent completely wither with other coaches over the years at programs. Travion Henderson is a 5-star talent. I admit that. But you have to cultivate that talent, or they languish. We've seen 5-stars not do so well. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah, they don't always pan out, but it's a higher percentage that do than the ones that don't.
Nearly every one of those guys never played a down for Ohio State. Okay, I'm happy to do a follow-up video on that. I will admit.
J.K. Dobbins never played? Are you kidding me?
Oh yeah. Yeah. I guess not.
Come on,
I guess not. J.K. Dobbins, well, J.K. Dobbins was Texas, but still, we said Texas and Florida.
And Ransom is still on the roster. Ransom didn't play. He just showed Ransom on the list.
Look, it's I get it, but the thing is, look, my point is that Florida players. The fact is, not every 4-star, 5-star, 3-star player pans out. Okay, and that's just part of the game that happens in spring ball, in fall, throughout the process. The cream rises to the top. The best players are going to play. And I have respect for Ohio State in that the best players at various position groups are on the field. Marvin Harrison Jr., Emeka Egbuka. Okay? There's a bunch of studs behind them, 5-star talent, 4-star talent, who may never see the field, or they may see the field in fourth quarter garbage time against Southern Wichita State. But the fact of the matter is, that's how it goes at elite programs. So fine, you want to say that a lot of the Florida players that were 4- and 5-star didn't pan out? Fine. I concede that point. But my point is that you need those 4-star players, those 3-star players, and even some 5-stars to take it to that elite level. I do believe that if Michigan combines what they already have with the team mentality and development of 3-stars, development of 4-stars, you combine that with bringing in some of this talent that he's able to bring in from Florida and Texas, and then you start to see who rises to the top from Florida and Texas, or from Michigan, or from Ohio. Jordan Marshall, the top running back in Ohio, who is at the Michigan program. So these are the things that we're going to see over time.
And you might think I'm crazy, but I know Jim had a lot of really good NFL coaches like Menor on his staff, but I think this staff right now has the potential to be better in recruiting than Jim's staff was. I really feel that.
Well, if they're willing to expand NIL, and this is really the key, right? We saw the first crucial data point with Quentin Johnson coming back from or from NFL draft consideration to do a 6th year at Michigan. That was the first data point for me that NIL is starting to expand with the new general manager, with what they're doing, with more directly working with the school and these organizations. Obviously we had the Champions Circle. There were multiple different initiatives that have been brought forth. Consultants have been hired, because I hate to tell you, but this happens at corporate, this happens at organizations. Consultants get hired when there is a problem. Consultants don't get hired when everything's hunky-dory. Consultants get hired when something is wrong, and our NIL situation was not up to snuff with 2024 recruiting. And so they hired consultants. They brought in a general manager from the Bears, right? And he's partially responsible for the NIL program. So
And I think that's Michigan's biggest issue right now, and I think that if we can just get our nil game in order, man, I think we're going to take off once that happens. The sky's the limit for Michigan.
I'm just encouraging everybody. Otherwise, Moose and I are just going to keep going. So if you want to call in, don't just be a keyboard warrior. You want to make your points. You want to hide behind the keyboard. I respect that. And look, there are legitimate reasons, like you're traveling or you just can't get, you can't get to the line, or StreamYard doesn't work. There are legitimate reasons to not call in. But if you're coming at us, just call in and let's have a conversation about it.
Yeah, call in. You can even I'll even let you have my spot. Call in. I want to hear what you have to say.
Yeah, and look, I promise you this, Ohio State fans, if you call in, I'm going to put my neutral Big J journalism hat on. And I'm going to I promise you that. I will do my best to. Now again, you have to understand something. I went to Michigan, class of 2014. Maize and blue is definitely running through my veins. However, we do believe in Big J journalism at the Voice of College Football. And if there is a legitimate take, I will follow it through to its conclusion. So call in with some evidence, call in with some good points, and we would love to entertain it from Buckeyes, from other schools, or of course, Michigan fans, very welcome to call in as well. So go ahead and hit the phone, call in. The link is right there. The link is in the description. I also do want to remind everybody before we continue talking to hit the like button, subscribe to Voice of College Football, share this out with a friend. Although you guys are doing a great job of that today. We've had some pretty good turnout. When you're doing your shopping on Amazon, go ahead and click the link in any description section at the Voice of College Football. And we would love that. Get your Voice of College Football merch. New merch is in. And here's the link that you guys can check out. And then we'll get to our next caller. Here it is. We've got that. And so I'm gonna Moose, you can stay on. I'm gonna go ahead and bring on as well Hummus Hero. Credit to him. He's calling in. So let's we're gonna give him a fair shake. And then
You know who I want to hear? You know who I want to hear, John? I want to hear Steven Cherry Blossom calling, because he's always got so much to say about Michigan stuff. So come on, don't be a keyboard warrior. Come on in, Steven.
That would be great. But we're gonna give Hummus the opportunity to give his take on things. So Hummus, thank you very much for calling in. What's your take on the news today?
Yeah, thanks for having me on, guys. And I wasn't trying to make personal attacks, John. When I said that, I probably shouldn't have said that you're acting childish. It's just that you seemed a little bit gleeful. You seemed a little bit joyous over it. And
Correct.
and honestly, from an Ohio State perspective, like I don't think any of us really like thought that Alford was like this amazing guy. I mean, yeah, he was a decent recruiter. I'm not denying that. But like
Thank you
I
for
think
not denying that, because some others
yeah,
in
no, he
here
was
did
a
not
good
do that.
yeah, no, he's a decent recruiter.
Yeah.
But the thing is that you got to remember also is that it's Ohio State. Like a lot of the recruits, it's the brand, it's everything that comes along with it, the tradition of running backs and all that stuff. So I don't think it's the hardest place, and I don't think it's the hardest position coach to be a pretty good recruiter at Ohio State. I think like what Ryan Day's done with quarterbacks to kind of in the past 5, 6, 7 years has been much more impressive. I think that was really Ryan Day, not Corey Dennis. But at any rate, I'm getting a little
I would
sidetracked.
agree with you with I'm going to stop you just for a second. I would agree with you with Heartline. I'm going to push back on the running backs, and and I think you know where I'm going with this. Ryan Day's offense is predicated on a
Passing,
majority pass attack. I do believe Chip Kelly's coming in to moderate that, actually, but his offense has been predicated on more of I'd call it like a pseudo hybrid air raid. I don't call it a full air raid, but it's definitely more on the passing, and requires elite 5-star or 4-star wide receivers. So Heartline, yes, but running. I mean, let's face it. Travion did have a great season his first year. His second year, he got injured. Can't blame him for that one. Third year, he did, I'd say, fairly well. But like overall, Ohio State is, I think you would agree, right, that it's known more for the wide receiver talent and quarterback talent than the running game. Or am I off base there?
Well, no, that's a good analysis in the past 3 to 4 years. But what you got to
Okay.
remember is prior to 2020, and really even in 2020, because Fields was running a decent amount there, and we had Trey Sermon who was putting up massive numbers. I know you don't
Yep.
look at it because it was a shortened season, but really when Henderson was being recruited, when they were selling it to him, look at what they were pointing at. They were pointing out J.K. Dobbins in 2019, who ran for 2K. You know what I mean? Like, and then prior to that, during the Urban Meyer era, the entire time, it was, if anything, it was more run heavy than pass. It was a balanced attack, but I
I
mean,
agree.
you had Ezekiel, you had really good running game virtually the whole time. So, but I don't know. I mean, I'm not devaluing Travion Henderson. That's probably the single best recruit that Alford ever landed, because like you're saying, he did coach Ezekiel for 1 year, but he didn't recruit Ezekiel.
Right.
You know what I mean? And he was already there and he was already established. And yeah, he found Mayan Williams, but Mayan Williams was an in-state guy who, Ohio State's offering you and you're a 3-star. Like, of course you're going to do it. But one of my big things, and one of my last comments in the chat that I was pointing out, is that Alford failed to get Jordan Marshall, who Mike Hart did get.
That's a good point.
Like, he failed.
That is a good point.
So, I mean, that was a big thing. And, anytime an in-state, an elite running back in-state turns down Ohio State, that doesn't look good, and that might be, once again, I'm not placing all the blame on Alford, because like you pointed out when I first got in here, that is very true. Recruits are recruited to a school, they're recruited by coaches, but they're also looking at the scheme. You know what I mean? So in the past couple years, they're looking at it like, how many touches am I going to get? Am I going to, so there's definitely something to be said there. So, if Chip Kelly kind of changes the offense a little bit and it becomes more balanced, then, the situation with Jordan Marshall, he might have said, I'm going to stay in state and I'm going to go to Ohio State.
Well, Hamas, thank you for saying he's a good recruiter, because a lot of your fan base is what me and John are talking about is a lot of your fan base is upset and mad about this, and they're finding a way to cope with it. So instead of just saying that he's actually a pretty good coach, they're saying, oh, he's He's mid. We didn't need him anyways. He's just mid. My question is, if you're a mid coach and you're not that great, why did you last 9 years at Ohio State? That's my question. If he's such a bad
Right.
coach, I don't understand
So
that.
Right.
I
That's
don't
a good
think
point.
that, like I said, I don't think that, well, first of all, I don't think that running backs coach is, I don't think it's the hardest position to coach. Like, I just don't. I think that O-line, defensive backs, things where you have to teach a lot of technique. I mean, running back itself is very instinctual. Yeah, there's things that you learn, there's things that can be pointed out, but you're coaching, first of all, you're coaching one guy on the field at one point. You're not coaching an entire unit like a secondary coach or offensive line coach would be. You know what I mean? So right there, that's makes it a little bit easier. I think a lot of it really is about recruiting, and yeah, sure, development's there, but a lot of that also, is strength and conditioning. I think I think it's a little bit overstated how much impact a running backs coach does. It's just like the running back, how we see them devalued in the NFL. It's because in reality, a lot of it's plug and play. And if the player's plug and play, then the coach can be too. You know what I mean? Like, I think it's just the truth. So now, what you're saying though, Moose, I think that a lot of Ohio State fans are really upset by this. And I think they're not as upset for the reason that you think. It's not that this is this massive blow to Ohio State in terms of losing this elite coach, which, like I said, I think Alford's probably a pretty good coach. I never coached football, so I don't really know. But I think he's probably a pretty good coach because he did stick around for 9 years, as you stated. And he's a pretty good recruiter. You know what I mean? He might not be Brian Hartline, but he's a pretty good recruiter. But I think what's pissed Ohio State fans off is that he went to Michigan. That's what's pissed Ohio State fans off.
That's what I was going to say. And I really can't blame Ohio State fans for being pissed. I mean, because if the shoe was on the other foot and Mike Hart ended up leaving Michigan to go, I'd be pretty pissed off too if Mike Hart went to Ohio State.
But my question to you guys is, do you honestly think that this is an upgrade? Do you think that getting Tony Alford to replace Mike Hart is an upgrade? Because in my opinion, I don't think it is. I think that if anything, if you're looking at development and you want to stay the stuff that a lot of Michigan fans have said over and over in the past couple of years, which is true, development, look at who Mike Hart recruited and look at the production that he had. What was Hassan Haskins' rating? Was it what Travion Henderson's was? No, look at his season in 2021. Like, I think Mike Hart was probably the better coach. That's just my honest opinion.
Mine Williams was a 3-star, and as far as I recall, he put up some decent numbers, especially when Travion Henderson was injured.
Yeah, he put up decent numbers, but he didn't run wild all over Michigan like Haskins did against Ohio State in 2021. I mean, Mayan Williams is a decent back, and he's a good short yardage back, but Blake Corum and Hassan Haskins, neither one of them were super elite recruits, I don't believe, were they? I mean, they were maybe top 150 guys, but they weren't they weren't Trey Henderson or, J.K. Dobbins was a top 50-ish guy, so I mean, I don't know. Those guys are kind of can't miss most of the time.
I think from a recruiting standpoint, I think Alford is a better fit than Hart is. Hart might be able to pick out, he might be able to pick out diamonds in the rough more. I don't know. I don't know fully about that, but I think from a recruiting standpoint, I think Alford is better than Hart. I do think so.
Yeah. I mean,
just real quick, we're gonna make a quick swap. So Moose has been on with us for a while. Moose, thank you so much for being part of this dialogue. And then we're about to bring on one of our special guests here in a second. But really appreciate you, Moose, and go Blue.
No problem, John. Thanks for having me on. Go Blue.
See you, Moose.
And Hummus, bear with me as I bring on TJ Konarski from Ronin Sports Talk, who's been a regular guest for us. Looks like we're having some circular, but we'll see if that goes okay. While he pops in and pops out, yeah, I think you've got a point I think that they both have strength. So I would say that, Tony Alford's primary strength is definitely more on the recruiting side than Mike Hart. We pointed out some of the stats, like 9 top 200 running backs versus 1. We've pointed out the 247 list. From a recruiting perspective, I think Alford has the edge. From a coaching perspective, I would give the edge to Mike Hart based on what I've seen. The fact that he's been able to convert linebackers and other position groups to running backs, that's a special talent that not a lot of running backs coaches can do. Yeah. And so I'm going to give him as we did last night as well. I'm going to give him his flowers there.
Yeah, I think it's a nuanced discussion or debate when you start talking about this kind of stuff. I really do. So that's why I don't. I'm not going to make an absolute statement one way or another. So maybe I kind of did fly off the handle saying that it's a downgrade or that it's not an upgrade at any rate, because time will tell. But I do think it's a fairly nuanced discussion. I think that where you're recruiting to. So I think the proof will be, does Alford continue to recruit at the level that he did at Ohio State when he's at Michigan, when Ohio State is known to recruit better basically across the board? You know what I mean? So we'll see what happens there. And then also, there's always going to be factors that you can't exactly predict here. So like Michigan losing the strength and conditioning coach, which has an impact on every player on the field, as we all know. You know what I mean? That's a very important thing. So you can't say how much is dependent. I mean, you could see a sizable drop off in certain positions that are required to have that flexibility and those things. And running back's a very injury prone position. And people have complained about that with Mickey Marotti actually at Ohio State, that he's doing a good job of getting their bodies ready, but they're not flexible and limber enough, is what some people have said. And that's why we're seeing so many injuries. And then people also blame the turf, slip-proof turf or whatever.
I did hear about that. Yeah. There's, and that can be a really legitimate factor too. Like people need to understand that's not a small thing. That's, you can get into some serious injuries, and even in the NFL level, there have been some serious injuries with turf and with the wrong, like incorrectly configured in some of the maybe not so nice stadiums that are still going.
Yeah, it's this one, I can't remember what it's called. It's this one specific type of turf, and I think that they actually have banned it now. But Ohio State had just put it in. They had just replaced the existing turf like a few years back, and then I believe they banned it, and now I don't know if everybody had to rip it up, but I know that it's not allowed to be installed anymore. So,
well,
anyway, I think that's a discussion to be had where you see this. Do we still continue to see some of these position groups at a place like Michigan without the strength coach continue to kind of exceed their recruiting profiles? Because I think I think the strength coach is really undervalued. It's an undervalued part of the team. Like it really is.
Absolutely. Marotti and Ben Herbert, and I from all accounts, Justin Tress has been continuing a lot of the practices, kind of keeping it in the family, so to speak. Also keeping the nutrition director was a huge thing, because that was a consideration of where she was going to go, if she was going to go with Harbaugh or not. So yeah, nutrition director, another big one. So I think those things will help. I do want to bring on, I know NBA fans been chomping at the bit here. So we do want to let NBA fan on. NBA fan, thanks for calling in.
Hey, can you guys hear me?
Absolutely.
Hey man, how's it going?
It's good. We're doing a little emergency stream here for the Tony Alford hire.
Yeah, I hear that. So yeah, I think you guys hit on a lot of good topics here to start off that I kind of wanted to talk about. But going to sort of the claim that I heard you guys making earlier on about this being like a home run hire and things like that. Is that am I getting you right in terms of what you said?
Yes, I'm happy to review the 5 reasons why if you'd like, because we probably have some people that weren't on in the beginning.
Okay, yeah, I think I missed those 5 points. If you could kind of
It
go through those a little bit.
Yeah, it's totally okay. Actually, I might have I might have accidentally deleted. Oh, there it is. So number one, I think Alford from a recruiting perspective is an upgrade. We showed you the 247 list of primary and secondary recruits that he was responsible for either directly or as a secondary. 9 top 200 running backs versus Mike Hart's 1. That was reason number 1. Reason number 2 is that Alford knows Ohio State's recruiting, what they do for recruiting, what they do for NIL. He can navigate the conversations, and some of our other coaches can't, right? Wink Martindale isn't going to be able to navigate those conversations at first like Alford can, because he had to go head-to-head against Miami. He had to go head-to-head against Alabama, Georgia, and have the conversations of, how much am I getting paid? What's in it for me? Well, he's able to navigate that not just by saying you ain't getting paid, but by how you can get paid. Because we know that Ohio State has NIL practices in place where, that they do have some sponsorship deals. They do have some things in place for recruits. Michigan's still playing catch up there, but most other schools at the top level have NIL in place. They have like minimum amounts for players or things like that. So Alford knows how to address those, not just from you're just going to, if you do great on the field, you'll get paid like we used to do. He knows how to navigate it at the next level and actually address it in a way where it's not just a go pound sand, but here's what we could potentially look at for you.
Okay.
I'll actually stop there because I think that's a pretty notable one.
So in regards to the first point that you mentioned in terms of him having recruited 9 top 100 running backs juxtaposed to Mike Hart's 100, I think when we take into account the landscape that's always shifting, right? I don't know how many of those recruits would be relevant in regards to the context and in regards to what Michigan's recruiting against now. Right. Okay. A lot of them. And then if you look at the recruits that he's had in terms of the top 100s recently, a lot of them are not recent. So he's had Travion Henderson. He was his last last 5-star. But after that, none of them have been like, he's not on a recruiting high, right? You're not getting him when he's, at his max, essentially. Okay. And then when we look at like on-field production, you could argue, man, for like the past 3 to 4 years, I think everybody at Ohio State wouldn't even argue at the fact that Michigan's had the more ideal running back room.
Right.
Right. So whatever was going on there, I don't know why you stopped was flowing.
Well, because Mike Hart, for personal reasons, decided to leave the university. So we have no choice. So that's number one. Number 2 is that if you're going to look at a coach, we were talking last night about the Notre Dame running backs coach and the head coach of Marshall and some other people that were potentially in play, the Oklahoma running backs coach. But you can go and get your biggest rivals running backs coach, who also was associate head coach, by the way, not just running backs coach. Yeah. And the recruiting that he did was not just running backs. It was safeties. It was defensive tackles. It was interior offensive linemen. So the impact that he has on the university versus, let's face it, like he didn't just focus on running backs. And that's why Sharon Moore in his initial statement said that he was going to have an impact on the entire football program in addition to running backs. He specifically said the football program. And I think that's alluding to the variety of position groups that he was able to recruit.
And I agree with that. And I'm a fan of Tony Alford personally. I do think that I'm not going to say it's a loss. I don't think tangibly it'll have much of an effect on the product either way this coming season. But he's for sure quality coach.
I have to correct myself. Sorry, assistant head coach. Yes,
right.
Yes, that changes my point.
I think Ryan Day also gave Larry Johnson a similar title. But Yeah, I think he's an overqualified coach at this point who definitely is looking to expand his wings and have more responsibility. Another point that I wanted to address was, I don't know if it was you or the other gentleman who was a Michigan fan who brought up why he was on the roster 9 years if he was in Ohio. Why was he on the roster 9 years as an Ohio State coach if he was mediocre?
Right.
So
right. And 5 years at Notre Dame. Yeah.
Right. So I start off by saying he's obviously not mediocre, but to the point of why he wasn't elite either for a lot of his time at Ohio State. And I think a reason why he could stay on the staff was just because Ryan Day at certain points was pretty hesitant to make changes that needed to be made on Ohio State's coaching roster. You saw how long he kept what was his name? Rutgers coach now. Greg Schiano. He kept Greg Schiano a little longer than he needed to be there. He kept Kerry Combs a little longer than he needed to be there. So when he had those like glaring issues on his roster or his coaching staff, and he made those late, right? It kind of leaves room for a person who's not. You hear me?
Hello?
Hello?
Yeah, I hear you.
Okay. My earbud just cut out, but
yeah, I could tell you had some. Yeah.
Hello.
Yep, I hear you.
Right, so it leaves room for a person who's not elite, but he's not horrible to be on the roster. So just based off of Ryan Day being new to the adjustment of being a head coach and having all that added responsibility that he wasn't necessarily used to or comfortable or wielding, that made it to where he wasn't on his A game as he was earlier in his career, and he was able to stay on the staff.
Yeah, if I could interject for a second too, I'm not going to make a point that Tony Alford was kept for this reason or not, but if you were trying to validate that point, you could definitely point at Parker Fleming and Corey Dennis, both, who a lot of people just feel like were dead weight. And the thing with Corey Dennis is he's Urban's son-in-law. So a lot of people thought that was kind of just a hard thing to move away from, but they got rid of both of them this year. So a lot of changes have been made. So, and I'm not saying that's why Alford was retained or, I don't know if that's true or not. You'd have to be Ryan Day to actually know that. It's all conjecture. But, one point that can be made is that Tony Alford could be a pretty good coach and not absolutely elite and still keep his job. I mean, anybody who's worked at a place knows there's people who you'll work with and they're okay at their job, but they could clearly be better. But they're not getting fired because they're doing just enough or, better than average. And at a place like Ohio State, when the expectations are to win national titles and to have the all Big Ten running back, just enough or better than average isn't good enough. You know what I mean? And so I think that's why a lot of people have pointed to Tony Alford as, because within Ohio State circles, people have been saying that Alford needs to go. That's the thing. And he didn't receive an extension when almost everybody else who is really valued on the coaching roster did receive extensions. And I'm assuming that might have been partially why he went ahead and left. Maybe felt devalued. Like, you're going to give everybody else an extension and I'm just going to be sitting here treading water, then I'll go ahead and leave. So,
yeah. So it's interesting that you say that. And it's interesting that Ohio State fans were calling for his exit, especially when, you have somebody like Travion Henderson being such an impact player. And then when you had, even at times when needed, who else stepped up? Chip Trayanum. Who else stepped up? Mayan Williams. I think it's the hallmark of a good running backs coach when not just your A player can bring it, but if called on, so can Mayan Williams, so can Chip Trayanum. Look at the game that Chip Trayanum just became running back one against Michigan, or at least a feature back against Michigan. Like, you can't do that unless you have good running backs coaching. Look at Mike Hart, right? We used Mike Hart as a positive example. He had Blake Corum going, but he had Donovan Edwards going too. He had Khalil Mullings, who was a linebacker 2 years ago. right?
Mm.
So I think it's a hallmark of a good running backs coach when you can generate that depth. And I think you would agree with me that your running backs, when their number was called on, you know, they were able to win a hell of a lot of football games.
Yeah, I
Not
mean
against
they did a good.
Michigan, but almost every single other one.
Yeah, they did a good job. That's why I'm saying this is a very nuanced discussion, because you can definitely point out that Ohio State's ground production in the past few years has not been at a very good level. That's just a reality. You can look at it. Yards per carry haven't been terrible, but on average, if you compare the previous 3 years to the 3 years prior to 2020, 2019, and 2018, the production on the ground has decreased significantly.
Yes.
I mean, it's just a fact that it has. But once again, that's
Yes.
why I'm saying it's a nuanced discussion, because as you pointed out before, as Ryan Day became more firmly entrenched in his own scheme and moved away from what Urban Meyer had been doing and what the team was built around, the ideas, the mindset offensively has shifted.
I was
So
literally just about to say that if you hadn't said, I was like,
yeah, so it's
yeah. Ryan Day was like, it seemed like he was allergic to the zone read option kind of stuff after a while. Urban did it all the time, and especially with like JT Barrett, it was like it felt like every other play was a zone read. So as you just said, it started to move away from that and more into a pass heavy, which then of course impacts the running production.
So my point is that this discussion, it's really hard to really definitively say, to make a blanket statement to say this wasn't Alford's fault whatsoever. This was based on scheme. This was based on personnel. You know what I mean? It was development. And then, as I pointed out previously, the strength and conditioning factor is a big thing with running backs, considering their durability and, the injury prone nature of playing running back. You know what I mean? That's a big thing. You know what I mean? So I don't know if Travion Henderson was healthy, never got injured in either of the previous 2 seasons. I mean, who knows? He might have won a Heisman Trophy. When he's in there, his production is, as good as it gets. So it's really hard to say, and that might have also impacted the play calling. You know what I mean? And also the shyness to run the quarterback impacts the play calling too. Or I'm sorry, it impacts the way that a defense schemes against you. So back when Urban was coach and the quarterback power was like a huge thing, you had to account for that. When you had JT Barrett and Braxton Miller and all those guys back there, it opened up an extra avenue each time, at least one, because you had, especially with Braxton Miller, because my goodness, you better put somebody back there to spy him. If not, you'll pay for it, certainly. So.
And we did see some of those concepts with Justin Fields and J.K. Dobbins. We did, but it definitely was starting to especially after J.K. Dobbins went pro. It seemed like that they kind of flew out the window, and starting with Justin Fields' last year, and then with obviously with C.J. Stroud. He just kind of became allergic to running the quarterback. Other than 2022 Georgia and 2022 Northwestern were the two games that and then I think, were you the one who pointed out? Somebody pointed out that Stroud's first ever play was a zone read. Or like his first ever touchdown. I think that might have been you or somebody, but
it was against Michigan State, and it was I think it was like a 40-some yard run too. When we saw that, this was before really anybody knew much about Stroud, and we were like, oh, we've got another Justin Fields, another lethal runner, and he is a pretty good runner, but we were all surprised when he never ran for another touchdown in his Ohio State career.
He might have been thought of as a lethal runner if Ryan Day, ran him a little more.
Well, I think I can't. Once again, you can't speak for Ryan Day because you don't know for sure.
True.
But I think
that's true.
I think after that Skolsky hit on Justin Fields and was the Sugar Bowl when Skolsky speared Fields to the side and broke two of his ribs. Like, I think that
Mhm.
might make you a little bit more reluctant to run your quarterback after you witness that. And then
Yeah.
Fields was not 100% in that title game against Alabama. He just simply wasn't. I mean, I'm not making an excuse, but like he wasn't 100%. He was able to
Well,
play, but like clearly
I agree with I
you
agree
don't
with you.
suffer
And
that.
that's why I think Chip Kelly was what I said Chip Kelly was a very good offensive coordinator hire, because if Ryan Day is feeling skittish about quarterback run when it might be the right thing to do at the time, then you got to bring in Chip Kelly to make those calls if you're starting
Yeah.
to shy away from what's going to win you a football game.
Yeah, absolutely. So we'll see, and this gets back to kind of what we'll see in difference in scheme, and then maybe we'll be able to look at things from both sides, what the impact on Michigan and the impact on Ohio State, the difference in scheme and how it impacts it, at Ohio State, because you would think with Sharon Moore still being there, Michigan's still going to pretty much try to do the same thing, wouldn't you say? I mean, so we'll see how Alford fits in there and what the impact is there. And then we'll see what the impact of not having him at Ohio State and who, Day and Chip Kelly try to bring in has at Ohio State in terms of running game. And we'll never know for sure because like I said, there's too many factors to account for, but maybe we'll have something. But I just want to say you can bring somebody else on, but I just wanted to make one more point because
Sure.
earlier we were talking about like the home run hire or
Yes.
is it an upgrade or is it not? Like you can think that Mike Hart was a tremendous coach. You can think that he did a home run job at Michigan, and you can think that Tony Alford still is a home run hire. Like
Mhm.
it's the two things are can they don't have to be mutually exclusive. That one
Right.
guy's a strikeout and the other guy's a hire. I mean, is a home run. You know what
I
I mean?
agree.
Do you get what I'm saying? So
I
like that
do,
can
and
be the
I
case,
agree
but
with you on this. Yes.
my overall point is I just looking at this, trying to be objective as I can. I could see it as you say it's a home run for some of the points that you outlined, but I don't think if I was a Michigan fan, I don't think that I would look at it as a clear upgrade. That's my only point. That's my
Okay.
only point, and that's the thing that I would like to say.
Okay. I think respectfully there, I would say, given the options on the table, where I don't know if I still have the banner from yesterday's show, but no, I think I got rid of it. But we were talking about like the Notre Dame running backs coach. We were talking about the Oklahoma running backs coach. We were talking about those are some of the names that were being floated around the universe. And so when you look at it from, I'm looking at it from that perspective. Mike Hart left, so we needed to find a replacement. With that context, I believe that this was a home run hire
Right.
because we couldn't keep Mike Hart
Sure.
because he left, right? So based on that, I do think that it was a home run hire based on who was available and
Sure.
and what this represents.
Yeah, and just kind of to kind of put the icing on the cake, if you believe that, you took him away from Ohio State. So, who Ohio State replaces him with is going to be the key thing. You know what I mean? People are saying Eddie
Mm-hmm.
George, but that's not going to happen. He already shot it down. So, most likely Ohio State probably will get somebody who's similar because it's Ohio State, and they'll probably be able to
Sure.
throw a bag at somebody, and they seem to have unlimited funding, so it'll probably be pretty similar for Ohio State. But regardless, you took them away from Ohio State in the offseason and threw a little wrench into the flow, so to speak. So that's something to be said for that, I guess. And like I said, I'll quit talking, but the one other point I wanted to make is that I think most Ohio State fans that you see that are acting crazy about this, I truly think that some of them might think that Alford was a good coach and they might be just denying it and all this stuff. But I truly do believe that more often than not, me being, born and bred with the university and all the stuff, like to me, the thing that I say is traitor. You know what I mean? Like I look at it and that's how I feel more than, oh, we're losing this great coach. I look at it and I feel like, really, you did that? Really? Like you had Trey Henderson coming back you know, you were part of the reason maybe that Quinshon Judkins came here, and now you're going to dip. But once again, you're not in his shoes, and he didn't get that extension, and he might have felt like he deserved it, and maybe he did. So
I have a question before I let you go. What did you think, out of curiosity, when Madison came over to Ohio State?
yeah, I mean, I guess it's similar, but I don't think, how long was Madison there?
He was there at least 2 years, I believe. Let me check, but yeah. So he was 2019 and 2020 co-defensive coordinator. So Halfley in 19 and Kerry Coombs in 2020.
Yeah, so he, you know, he wasn't as attached. Oh no, I'm sorry. I was saying, how long was he at Michigan?
Like a bunch.
Was he?
92 to 96, 2011 through 2018, and he either was DC or D line coach for those years.
Okay, so yeah, so we didn't really, you know, I guess when you're on the other side of it, I guess you don't really, it's not sour grapes as much. So I think that better question would be to ask yourself, or to ask another Michigan fan, how did you feel when that happened?
Yeah.
You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Because like,
Yeah.
if you're getting
To really
something,
flip it. Yeah.
I've heard Ohio State fans say, "Oh, we don't want any coaches, we don't want any players from there." You know, when everybody's saying that the portal exodus was going to happen after Harbaugh left and all that stuff, and some people were saying, "Oh, we'll take who's the tight end?" They're saying, they're like going through Michigan's roster and saying all the players they're going to
We'll take Colston Loveland.
Yeah, we'll take Loveland, and we'll take Grant, and we'll take you know, all of the best players off of the roster. And like, and other players are like, "No, I don't care. They can, you know, they can go and play at you know, they can go play at Marietta Community College. I don't care where they go. They don't need to come here." So it's like different people are going to have different opinions on that sort of thing. But I didn't really think about it much because, like I said, I wasn't on the Michigan side of it, him going directly. And did Madison go directly from Michigan one year to Ohio State the next?
Yep.
Okay, so it is the identical scenario basically.
The way I felt, I mean, I'm not going to lie to you, I was pretty pissed in general with how the defense was going in the biggest games, and you know, I thought, okay, 2018 was a blowout. 2019 is going to be a blowout because now they have Madison, and he's going to give the signals and stuff, and and I know that Don Brown is a stubborn SOB who isn't going to change anything, even though Madison now has basically the book.
Right.
So traitor, but also, oh shit, we're going to lose by a lot in 2019, which is what happened.
Yeah, and the fear is definitely there, and like you pointed out, and like I was saying, I wasn't saying, when I said that in the chat earlier, I know that's reality. I know what you're saying is reality. I was saying that I don't think I would like be pointing to that, because it's just, in the spirit of sportsmanship, whether it happens or not, just like the signal stealing stuff and all that stuff. Like,
I get it.
I just don't think I would be pointing at that and saying, "Hey, this is why we want this." Like, you want to beat the team because you're the better team, not because you have some type of advantage that is, you know, based in knowledge of the other program. Like, I just don't see that as something that I would point out personally.
Okay.
But, you know, that being said, there's definitely a little bit of a fear with that, with Alford leaving, because, you know, he knows about the run game that Fry and Day have installed currently. Obviously, he's a part of it. But I think the one thing that Buckeye fans can maybe sleep a little bit easier on about that is that Kelly's going to come in and he's going to have his own input, and, you know, most likely him being OC, he's going to change a lot of play calling, and, you know, it's not going to be the end of the world. You know what I mean? It might have a little bit of an impact, but I don't think it's going to be a huge deal. So,
yep. And just to put the whole reason on the screen that you had just brought up. So my full point there was, Alford knows not just the schemes, but he knows in this 2024 NIL era, he knows recruiting and NIL and how Ohio State navigates those conversations, which is vastly different from how Michigan has historically. I think you would agree to this point that Michigan has navigated NIL by basically saying you're not getting any until you prove it on the field. And look at JJ McCarthy, look at Blake Corum. They're making lots of money because they perform on the field, but we're not going to give you anything other than maybe a car. Because we have seen some of the recruits with cars like Jaden Davis. But like, that's very different. I think you'd agree that Ohio State does in some cases because they have to compete with Miami, who's throwing the money cannons, and Kentucky, who's throwing the money cannons, and Alabama and Georgia, that there are programs in place, there are sponsorship deals that they can offer recruits. So he knows how to navigate that from a higher level than Michigan coaches have, just by the nature of how they've navigated it.
Yeah, there might be something to that. There, definitely. But I think that would also be a multi-tiered or multi-faceted, if you will, thing in general, just because, I don't know the inner workings. I don't know how much power the head coach has, the individual position coaches have in terms of that checkbook. You know what I mean? I don't think most people know that. If they tell you that, then they're really high up in the university, because right now it's so wonky the way the whole thing is, shaped. I mean, let's be real. Like, technically the university's still not supposed to have any input. I think they just passed something recently that makes it so it can going forward, but up until this point it wasn't even supposed to be the case. So it's the biggest thing is he going to have the same kind of checkbook? I think is like, I mean, I'm sure they paid Quinshon Judkins, who was a proven commodity, so that's
absolutely. Not only do we speculate on that, the announcement was made by the automotive group that did the sponsorship deal. So, like, yeah, that was an NIL for sure.
Yeah, it definitely was. It definitely was. But the thing with I'm not really opposed. I know this is getting off on a little tangent, but I'm not really opposed to giving money to a guy that's a proven commodity coming in as a transfer like that. You know what I mean? Because he's proven. It's different than paying, because you've seen what Texas A&M.
Yeah, he made a Milroe fumble and had a good play against Igbuka in the Ohio State game. So yeah, he made some not just plays but crucial plays in the largest games of the of Michigan's season and postseason.
Yeah. So it's that's going to happen, and it's not going to, the NIL thing is going to shake out the way that it does. Eventually it'll probably level off, because the schools that really do care about winning will have to eventually pony up to a certain degree. But places like Ohio State and Columbus and Texas and Austin are always going to be at an advantage. People need to realize this, because it's partially due to donors and the university itself, but also it's the market. And in a place like Columbus, which is what, the 14th or 15th largest city in top 30 metro area, with only one true professional sports team, the NIL opportunities are just greater than in a lot of other places. Like, it's a really, really good situation, and Austin's the same. Austin doesn't have any pro teams other than their soccer team. So places like that, you're going to have that. The big car dealership that gave him the money is Riker, and they don't have NFL guys to promote. You know what I mean? Like, everybody thinks it's just Ohio State's just handing out this money. No, a lot of it's the local economy. Like, I walk into Kroger's and you'll see a bag of chips that has Marvin Harrison Grippo's, which is a local potato chip company, and the bag of chips has Marvin Harrison on it. And it's like, that's not Ohio State giving Marvin Harrison money. That's an actual NIL deal, like what this is
supposed to be.
Yeah. So, and Columbus, like it or not, Columbus is going to be a very good place for this, as long as they only have one pro team that's competing with Ohio State, and Ohio State's king. That's the thing. So, but at any rate, that's completely off of this, and this isn't a Buckeyes live show, so we'll stop talking about it. But
It's
thanks
all
for taking
good.
my call, John, and sorry for being a little bit sour grapes when I came on.
No, but you know, unlike some, you did call in, and we had a good and when people call in, we really do try to have a decent conversation and try to have a good back and forth regardless. So appreciate. I'm gonna mark you just like I do with Sean as one of our reasonable Buckeyes on the Voice of College Football and Michigan channel.
Yeah. No, I'm typically reasonable as long as we're not talking about Disney and CFP conspiracies and stuff like that. That as the real MVP knows, I'm very unreasonable there. But
Yeah.
all right,
Well,
John.
absolutely. Well,
Thanks,
absolutely.
thanks, man. I'll talk to you later, man.
Bye, hummus. All right. So we have time for maybe one more call for those of you just joining us. The entire story today has been for our emergency episode of Michigan Wolverines Live that Michigan has hired running backs coach and assistant head coach of the offense. Let me use the correct terminology. Assistant head coach of the offense and running backs coach Tony Alford from Ohio State. The reasons why this is massive for Michigan: huge upgrade as a recruiter. We showed you the 247 list from top to bottom, not just for running backs, but for safeties, for interior offensive linemen, for wide receivers. He was a primary or secondary recruiter for a lot of the talent, that produced on the field. And yes, talent that fizzled, as happens at every program. Number two, Alford knows Ohio State's recruiting, NIL moves in the era 2024, where, as Nick Saban pointed out, it's all about how much can I make and how much, what can I get? Alford knows how to navigate that at a higher level than some of our coaches, given, the fact that they've had to battle with money against Miami, against Kentucky, against some of these programs. And yes, he knows the schemes. Are we going to use a lot of that? Probably not, because honestly, we've been out scheming them anyway. But there may be one or two things that we may want to flip, and other inside information. And I do think that that's something, as Madison did with Ohio State. And then, Don Brown's idiot self didn't change any of the signals and didn't change any of what he did because he was stubborn. So then 2019 happened, giant blowout. And then, of course, Nick Saban most recently just did this with our linebackers coach to get an edge for the Rose Bowl. Adds more Texas and Florida pipeline, has great relationships in both of those areas. And finally, this move shows how far the Michigan program has come and what Sharon Moore is prepared to do to not just go 8-4, not just win a natty and then go 8-4, but to continue to win at a high level from here on out. We have a caller. It looks like another Ohio State caller, potentially, King. So we've had some real Buckeye representation on Michigan Wolverines Live tonight.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, I'm probably the best one though.
Okay,
Yeah, they know.
that's fair.
They know.
Okay.
They know me. Everybody know me on social media, so this should be fun.
well, what's your take on the news today?
I said this earlier. I honestly don't get. I mean, I guess I understand from the standpoint of, you know what I mean. You go into your enemy, you go into your rival. So I can see the portrayal aspect from a lot of fans. From our fan base, but I honestly don't get the beef with this one. I mean, nobody was complaining when Ryan Day was handing out all them damn contract extensions and Tony Alford didn't get one. Nobody said a damn word. Want to know why? Because you didn't care. So why do you care now? He cut his salary and gave him a 1-year deal. What did you expect the man to do? Everybody knew that Tony Alford was on the damn chopping block. What did you expect him to do? Just take it? I mean, just allow that to happen? I mean, if
Right.
you wanted the dude, if you wanted the dude, you would have acted like it. And that's the part that really disappointed me about today. I get that you're mad because, he jumped over enemy lines. And I understand that. I'm not knocking no Buckeye fan for that. But get the hell out of here acting like y'all really, really care. Because when he gave that contract extension to our D line coach, to our safe DBs coach, Heartline got more money. Everybody around got a extension or a raise except
Except
him.
him. So you
So
just like in business, just like in anything,
come on,
when that happens,
co-
you look at your options.
come on now. So what are you? So what conversation are we really having here? Because, like I said, I am all about following people's action. Words, people are gonna say a lot of shit. You know what I mean? Welcome to America. Welcome to the earth. People are gonna
Mhm.
say a lot of stuff. But what are your actions? And your actions were you didn't want him. So was he supposed to just take that? I really want an answer. I really
Well,
do want an
Ohio
answer.
State fans, if you want to give him an answer, because I
Come,
don't. I mean, I agree 100% with you. So
come on,
the only
like
thing I disagree, I heard you slip in a little. Maybe he wasn't that great. Did you slip in a
no.
little? Maybe he wasn't the greatest running
Okay.
backs coach, or
No, I mean, that's a depending on who you talking to
okay,
thing. For me, um, Coach Alford, I got to shake his hand a couple of times at a couple of home games. Really,
cool.
seemed like a really cool dude. Um, but for me, obviously we all know the recruiting misses because around here recruiting is king. We love our stars.
Hmm.
Um, and he had a lot of misses. He had a
Hmm.
lot. You
Jordan
know,
Marshall.
yep,
Hmm.
yep. But the biggest one was Bijan Robinson. Oh,
Yeah,
Coach Day was pissed at that one. The
I
Bijan Robinson recruitment and the Mark Fletcher recruitment.
who could
Oh, they
blame
were
him for
furious.
being pissed? I mean,
That,
but it was Texas. The thing with that one was you might have run into again an NIL situation
yeah,
because
him and
Texas is notoriously flush with cash with
that
with
oil
respect to
money.
recruiting.
That oil money. Yeah, but this. I said this on one of our spaces a while ago. I said Ohio State is the most arrogant recruiting team in the country. They're
Hmm.
arrogant as hell. And what I mean by that is, okay, take the running back position, right? For the 2020, what is it, 4-5 class, we are after a kid named Jordan Davis from Mater Day out in Cali, right?
Okay.
Cool. Number one running back in the class. That's fine. Whatever. But you have two studs in your backyard in Marquise Davis and Bo Jackson. You've been down this road enough times to know that when you go national and you go after these highly ranked number one, number two overall kids at their positions, typically how these conversations are going to go,
Hmm.
especially with the linemen. So when I say that Ohio State is arrogant, they want what they want. And they are willing to play games that just flat out we just should not be willing to play. And with that Jordan Davis recruitment, that 80% of that is NIL.
Hmm.
80% of it. 80% of it is NIL led. And why do that when you have two studs that you can literally take right now in your back damn yard? It's arrogance. It's arrogance. Take those kids and move the hell on. Take them. Why are you playing these games? I'll give you another example. Last year with Brandon Baker, the kid, the tackle who went to Texas,
Hmm.
right? Now I know I'm gonna get roasted for this, but I was a huge fan of Luke Hamilton.
Yeah.
I like Luke Hamilton.
Yeah.
How in the hell don't you offer that kid?
We talked about it on the show.
I mean,
I don't know. Great question.
How how these recruitments are going to go. Why are you playing these games? Take the kid that's in your backyard and be done. Develop them. I don't
see here's an Ohio State fan who's exactly proving your point.
Yeah.
Drop that bag. Ohio State only needs the best.
Oh shit. Yeah.
So Luke Hamilton, he was crap, I guess.
Yeah. It's you know, and don't get me wrong, I understand it because I made a lot of videos making fun of fucking Miami. I cannot stand them. I cannot stand them. But
with the money, Scott and the money.
Come on now. We all know what's going on. But at the end of the day, I had to relook at the situation and call it for what it is. This is the world we live in nowadays, y'all. It is what it is. And, you know, at this point, it's either you're gonna get down or you're gonna lay down. And I don't wanna lose 3-4 games a year. So if this is the realm that we have to play in, then so be it. But at the end of the day, you still have to. I don't even know if it's possible. You have to find the right kids who want to be there for the right reasons. You cannot go after. I mean, come on. Look at what Texas A&M did. Garbage. Look at what Miami did. Garbage. They're paying them. They're getting them on the campus. But where's the results? That's my biggest fear for my program, is that this NIL thing is gonna get to the point to where the true meaning of the sport is gonna be no more. And that's what I don't want for, you know what I mean, my program in particularly. And, you know, for Tony Alford, hey, I don't blame that man one bit, because you handed out a lot of money. You ain't give none to him. You gave him a 1-year deal. He was the only coach on your coaching staff that had no long-term security. Hey, do what you got to do, my brother. Now, this is Ohio State. You're going to get somebody else you're going to be just fine. But for me, I'm not about to trash the man trash him and trash a program for doing something that you didn't want to do. I'm sorry. That's just not how I get down. Nope.
Yeah.
Do you Tony Alford
the respect? 3-year deal and 2.5 mil.
Yep.
So
get your money.
Allegedly, that's what it is. 3-year, 2.5. Yeah.
Get your money. Your coach cut his damn salary. He cut it, and he did not extend him. I mean, come on. Yeah. And like I said, I say this too. If you do not like, as an Ohio State fan, all this talking that Michigan is doing, tell your player. You guess what? The beautiful thing about this game that God has blessed us with, and we cannot take it for granted, is that we get to do it every year.
Yeah.
We get to line this up every damn year. So when that November comes, hey, handle your business.
All eyes are going to be on that game.
Come on now. Handle your damn business. If you don't like
greatest rivalry in sports.
If you don't like them talking the way that they do, if you don't like the memes, etc., do something about it. It's simple. Isn't that simple?
Yeah.
Go handle your business. But for the topic, this Tony Alford thing, hey, Michigan did what you didn't want to do. Don't complain now.
Yeah, and apparently it was in the works for quite some time, because they made the announcement immediately, And with most of these announcements, it's actually taken about 2 to 3 weeks because Michigan has completely changed their vetting process. They've brought in a new firm, given what happened with Shemi Schembechler. They're going through all the social media. They're going through all the history.
They gotta
so
make
that
sure that they ain't got no funny LLCs.
Right. Or say stuff that they shouldn't be saying, and that's the world we live in, and it needs to happen. But the reason I bring that up is because unlike almost all the other coaching announcements, this one was made the same day. The official announcement was made the same day that it was reported.
So it was already done.
That's been in the works.
Yeah, it was already done. And like I said, I can understand the anger and the frustration from that standpoint.
Yeah, because he was coaching and recruiting at Ohio State and talking to Michigan about a deal.
Come on now. That's that's backdooring on another level, So I understand the you know what I mean, the hate, behind that. But at the end of the day, I'm not gonna hate on somebody for securing their future when you didn't want to do that. I'm never gonna I can never bring myself to that level for doing something that you didn't want to do. That's like being in a relationship with a woman, and you know what I mean.
Getting pissed off because you don't treat them right.
You don't treat her
I get
right.
where you're going.
You don't treat her right. Another dude comes along who treats her right. And then the other dude gets her, and then you go, what the hell, you gonna be mad for leaving you? You didn't treat her right. That's just calling it what it is. This is not an opinion, y'all. This is facts. This is a fact. Ryan Day handed out money to everybody. Tony Alford is the only one that got his salary cut. The only one that only had a year left on his deal. And what? He's supposed to just, put his family and his future in that type of a conundrum just because he loves Ohio State so damn much? No. So that's why I'm not even firing back at all the, all of the slick talk that's being said. Hey, my talk will come November 30th. Because but right now, and I know a lot of Ohio State fans don't really like what I have to say because I call it too down the middle. You know what I mean? For them, the very same way that I did with the Connor Stallion situation, they hated me for that shit because I just don't care. There's no fucking reason you should have lost to them 3 straight times. I don't care what you say. I don't give a shit if he was infiltrating your damn sidelines and he was in the headset with Ryan Day while he was calling out the goddamn plays. You shouldn't have lost to them 3 straight fucking years in a row. I don't care what you say. I don't give a damn. I don't care.
Exactly. And look, so it's Connor Stallion's fault that Hassan Haskins ran up the middle for 5 touchdowns.
Come on now.
Like,
come on. Is it Connor Stallion's fault that what in this past game you had a drive that took up 9 minutes? You couldn't get off the field?
Was it Connor Stallion's fault that Kyle McCord threw a ball to Michigan?
Right to him. I mean, damn. And then he said after the game, he didn't see him. What are we doing? Yeah. What are we doing? So for me, I am public enemy number 1 around Columbus. But I don't give a shit because but I don't care because I look at shit in a very, very simple way. With the talent that you have and the way that you recruit, I don't care the circumstances. You should not have lost to them 3 straight years in a row. Period. It stops right there. I don't care about anything else other than that. We are too talented. Check the recruiting rankings, y'all. What more do you want? Did Urban have this problem? No. So why do we all of a sudden have this problem now? You're not about to fucking tell me it is because of a vacuum salesman. You're not telling me that. There is no excuses for us losing to them 3 straight years in a row. None. I don't care. And a lot of Buckeye fans, they're gonna be all over my social media. Fuck you, I hate you, I don't care. I don't care. There's no excuses for that. You cannot be you cannot be the type of person that will sit up here and lie and say that you have a moral code and that you're a man and that you have principles and things like that, and you want to continue to make excuses. I don't no, not losing 3 straight times. No, absolutely not. And I'm okay with being hated for that.
Yeah, look, I mean, I think you made a lot of great points. What I said to start off this show is Michigan fans are welcome to call in. Ohio State fans are welcome to call in. Anybody who wants to give a take on this is welcome to call in. And so I'm glad you guys have, because often opposing teams stay in the chat. They don't call in. But you called in, and Hummus Hero called in. An NBA fan called in, and so I appreciate all 3 of you for doing that.
Yeah, because and like I said, you guys have earned the right to talk your shit. We talked a lot of shit for a long time.
I know.
A long time. A long damn time. You don't like it, do you? Well, go do something about it. God has blessed us to be able to do it every year. Go do something about us. And when that day happens, fire off. I know I will be. I know I got a whole bunch of bookmarks. So I know I'm gonna be firing off. But right now, they've earned the right to poke their goddamn chest out. Hey, if you don't like it, do something about it. I appreciate you taking my call, my guy. You know?
Absolutely,
And I'll definitely,
King.
And whenever you have another call-in show, I'll be, I'll try to hop back on with you and chat with you some more.
Every Monday night at 8 p.m. Eastern on Voice of College Football main channel, we do a show called The Ocho, and we talk Big Ten football every single week.
Yeah. Okay. You said Monday night?
Monday night at 8 p.m. Eastern. We go till about 10:30 Eastern usually.
Okay, I'm gonna put that in my calendar.
Yeah, come on in, and I usually do a half hour with a media guest. So we're trying to talk to all 18 of the Big Ten teams. So we just had Minnesota Golden Gophers football discussion with Daniel House from Gophers Guru. Next week it'll be a different team, and we're just going through. And then after that, we do a panel. So after the media caller, we have a panel. And we have like 4 or 5 people from the community. So you're welcome to come on to that.
Oh, I appreciate that. I'll definitely do that.
Absolutely.
So Monday night, 8 o'clock. I'm gonna put that in my calendar so I can make sure.
And Mark Rogers, Voice of College Football, also usually does a couple of call-in shows a week. So you're welcome to call into any of Mark's stuff too.
No doubt. I appreciate it, my guy. I'll talk to you in a second.
Thanks, King.
All right. Thanks out. Peace out, everybody. All right.
Okay, that's perfect timing because we're about to wrap and send everybody over to Oregon Ducks Live. But I want to thank everybody for being here. We did, just to wrap up for those who are just joining us, today we were talking about Michigan hiring running backs coach Tony Alford, stealing him from Ohio State. We talked about the reasons why he's a good hire, a really great hire for Michigan. Upgrade as a recruiter, knows Ohio State's NIL and recruiting schemes, inside info, all of it's legal, adds more to Texas, adds more Florida based on what we saw with the 247 list, and finally shows how far the program has come and what Sharon Moore is prepared to do to win, including poaching a very important coach from the Ohio State program. With that said, don't forget to hit the Amazon link, as always. Don't forget to check out our merch store and support the channel through those ways. We do have, so the next Big Ten themed show will be Big Ten live show with Mark Rogers, Friday at 7 p.m. Eastern. So what you can do for that show, we don't use StreamYard, you pick up the phone and you call 888-99-RILEY. Okay, that's the easiest way to remember it. Tim always gets on my case about it, but it's the easiest way to remember it. 888-99-RILEY, and you can talk to Mark Rogers, voice of college football. Of course, I do the Ocho, as we just discussed, Big Ten Live Ocho edition every Monday night at 8 p.m. Eastern. And then normally Tuesdays at 8 p.m. Eastern, we have Michigan Wolverines Live. But today we did an emergency show for the huge news of hiring Ohio State assistant head coach of the offense and running backs coach Tony Alford on a 3-year deal, reportedly around $2.5 million. Any final thoughts here from the chat? Thank you for saying, Matt. Appreciate that. And other than one person, Buckeyes were extremely respectful tonight, and I do want to thank them. Not just King, but Hummus. I mean, we had a very respectful and good back and forth. Didn't agree with everything he said, but we kept it respectable. And so I do appreciate everybody coming by, regardless of if you're a Michigan fan or you're not a Michigan fan. As long as you don't go to personal attacks, then you get to stick around. And even if you say we cheated, even if you say, Michigan sucks for doing this, I don't care. You can stay. If you go after people personally, as one who shall not be named did, they don't get to stay. So that's how we do it. I think that's pretty fair. So we've got that great show tonight. Thank you for that. Great. King was great. Every caller today was great. I really appreciate everybody calling in and being part of this. Let's see here. Final thoughts. Okay. And of course, Moose reminding people to click the Amazon link, which is on every description section of every video that we do at Voice of College Football. Go to Aura, aura.com/MarkRogers. Get a free 14-day trial to secure your finances, information, and identity. I tried it, and I was pretty blown away by all the different things that they do to look at your data, let you know where your information is around the web. If you do this, it really does support Mark, and it supports the network if you sign up for your 14-day trial. So go ahead and do that if you haven't already, and sign up for Aura to really help Mark and help the community continue to do this kind of content, continue to be the best resource for insight and analysis on the internet. Mark Rogers, voice of college football. Merch store, yes, and Ticket Smarter. So Ticket Smarter with Ticket Smarter. There is lots of stuff happening, right? There's going to be stuff that requires tickets. The NCAA tournament in basketball, for example, right? There's going to be spring football leagues, which I believe now it's called the UFL, the United Football League. You're going to need to get tickets for that. They're going to be like $10, but you can use Ticket Smarter to get them. And I'm going to be looking at the DC Defenders, if they're still going strong at Audi Field, next year. So check that out. www.ticketsmarter.com. And of course, Michael always can be relied on to come in with the Notre Dame perspective. And I got to say, I've enjoyed some of Michael's posts today because he's been on all the Buckeye podcasts talking about this move, and it's been very enjoyable. So it's nice to see his comments directed at the Ohio State Buckeyes and not at the Michigan Wolverines. So we appreciate that. And it sounds like their hockey team is championship bound. So there you go. About to start in like a minute or two, Oregon Ducks Live is also doing a special episode today. So we've got 2 special episodes for you back to back at the Voice of College Football. And looks like they're going to be about 10 minutes behind. So expect that show to start around 10:25, 10:30 Eastern with the Savage family. And of course, exploring with Ben and the cast of characters there. So go ahead and go over there, give them a like, support them if you can. Stick around and chat, and then from there, that point on, support all of our shows on the network if you'd like to. But if you do nothing else, at least hit the like button here. It just takes a second. It's free, and it helps us get these videos out there. Like, subscribe, hit the bell. Like, subscribe, hit the bell. It's that simple. Do that, and then we really can get rolling here. Okay. I think we're about done. So that was that. Tony Alford is officially rounding out the coaching staff at Michigan. And now we're going to see spring practices coming up, and we can report on that and the eventual spring game, which should be very exciting this year with the quarterback battle and everything going on. So stay tuned for insight and analysis at Michigan Wolverines Live and all of our channels at the Voice of College Football as we go through spring practice. So we'll be hanging out at Oregon Ducks Live next. Join me over there. The link's been put in chat, and we're going to support them. They're bringing on some great guests today, so we'll support them and all of that good stuff. Thanks, everybody, for joining us for our emergency episode of Michigan Wolverines Live. And until next time, go Blue.